about how I tried to present this, both to the board and to the ACC&U, was what we are doing here is a logical extension of our mission and of the namesake of our university, Cardinal John Henry Newman, and some of the ideas that he stood for in his very famous work, The Idea of an Education. The panel that Dr. Croce chaired and that I participated on in Washington, D.C. was on the idea of a university and the modern Catholic university. And I got to just present our general education program. Dr. Miller had to write a talk. But we begin with this quotation, one of my favorite from Newman, though not as much of my favorite as the one I'm going to read in a minute. A university is an alma mater, knowing her children one by one, not a foundry or a mint or a treadmill. And as I look around at what I've seen in other places and other places that I've been involved with, foundries, mints, and treadmills abound. Let's start with this quotation. This is my favorite quotation, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I have a lot of quotations from the Cardinal here. I'm only going to use a few of my own words. He says, when he's talking about the difference between knowledge and learning, "I will tell you, gentlemen, what has been the practical error of the last 20 years. It has been the error of distracting and enfeebling the mind by an unmannerly profusion of subjects, of implying that a smattering in a dozen branches of study is not shallowness, which it really is, but enlargement, which it is not." And I read that quotation to a room full of Catholic university presidents, and I asked them, how many of you would define your general education or core curriculum program as an unmannerly profusion of subjects? And most of them just went like this. Because that's the general education model that we have inherited from Cardinal Newman in this country. Because of a variety of turf issues and political issues. Did you all know there were politics in higher education? I'm not shocking anybody with that, am I? We've come to the point where an unmannerly profusion of a smattering of subjects pretty well describes the philosophy of general education. And what Cardinal Newman talked about in his idea of a university, and I'm focusing specifically on the 5th and 6th lectures. The 5th lecture, perhaps the most famous, is his Knowledge Its Own End lecture, where he draws a distinction between what he calls useful knowledge, and this would be all of the things which help you do stuff, like balance your checkbook or change your tire or play the piano, or even live a moral life. All of these he puts into the category of useful knowledge, which for my purposes I'm going to call skills, and liberal knowledge, which he uses instead of the naturally occurring term useless knowledge, which is that knowledge which you pursue. And you all understand, because Father Tom has told us several times that liberal education comes from the Latin liber, which means a free man, and a liberal education is a free man's education, or perhaps more accurately, a rich man's education. It's what you would study if you didn't have to worry about making a living. If you could study anything you wanted to, and only studied what you wanted to with no regard for the pragmatics of learning a trade, that's liberal education. And Cardinal Newman talks a lot about education as providing knowledge that is valuable in and of itself, without having to account for anything. And then finally, and I've got to go quick because I've already used about half of my time. Okay, I'm going. Enlargement is what the Cardinal talks about when he talks about what is something other than just learning knowledge. Enlargement is what you get when you learn how to think about knowledge, how to use information. And we're going to go quickly. I'm not going to read all of the quotes. You can read them yourself. But we do have Amy Seipel here being active. Are you here, Amy? Okay. Well, anyway, enlargement is something that he defines throughout the 6th lecture of the idea of a university. And first, he defines it as an active encounter with a subject matter, rather than a passive reception of facts. He defines it as the ability to generalize, the ability to take information, knowledge, skill from one situation and apply it in another situation. without being limited by the original context, of perhaps discovering that something you learn in your math class could help you in your science classes, or that great gulf between sociology and social work could be bridged by learning relevant skills that you can transport from one discipline to the next. It is interdisciplinary. It does not buy into the unmannerly profusion of a smattering of ideas, but there is no enlargement unless there be a comparison of ideas one with another. And it is connective. It doesn't just compare ideas one with another, it connects them together so that you can see such things as truth and meaning and morality and beauty as part of something large, rather than as a bunch of different disciplinary silos. So this is what the sixth chapter, or the sixth lecture of the idea of university is all about. The fifth chapter talks about the difference between skill and knowledge education. The sixth chapter talks about the difference between knowledge and learning. Which brings us to what you, as the faculty, and us as the Newman community, have just submitted to and had approved by our Board of Trustees, and that is the Newman Studies Program, which is a, I believe, remarkably forward-looking idea of a core curriculum. We begin, as Cardinal Newman said we must, with those courses that are skills courses, those courses that have the disadvantage of being useful, good for something, things that will help us in the rest of the program, but also things like writing and speaking and doing math and using computers, which are valuable skills to have. From there we progress to the middle tier, to knowledge-based courses, because Cardinal Newman believed, and we believe, that a good part of education is acquiring knowledge, and acquiring knowledge in a context of being able to use that information, to generalize and transport the information, but still mastering a disciplinary body of knowledge, or a set of bodies of knowledge. And then we come to these top tier courses, the real heart and meat of our Newman Studies program. And these are the courses that meet every one of the criteria that Cardinal Newman gave for learning or enlargement. They are interdisciplinary, they are connective, they are team-taught, they are active, they are not an unmannerly profusion of subjects, they do not depend on the mastering of any body of knowledge. They are classes in enlarging the mind, enlarging the soul. It's a great thing that we've done, and I can't tell you how proud I am to be affiliated with a faculty who has pulled something like this off.